Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you, ladies?
Hi.
Morning. Good morning.
Hold on,
How are you?
I'm
Good. How are
great
you?
this morning. Welcome to Morning Glory. Welcome to Morning Glory. We have listen, this is one of our best days out of the week, and this is Thursday, Guest Thursday. Guest Thursday. And we have the
Amen.
fabulous, beautiful
Thank
Brittany
you.
Miller joining us today with
Yes.
Brittany Miller Brand. She's a
Appreciate you.
CEO. She's a wife, a mother, and a celebrity PR. And I know you do
Thank
much, much
you.
more. And
Yes.
this first question I want to ask you: how do you juggle all that with all the responsibilities that you have?
Ah, man, that is a good question. I don't think I have a rhythm for it. I think I just do whatever needs to be done at the moment. It's really crazy. I think the best way I can explain it is just being ready at all times for anything, um, and just prioritizing whatever is most important. Typically, and other people who understand who have this kind of workload or demand understand what I mean, because every day there's more tasks than can be
Mm,
completed in a day. So
mm,
there's just, it's automatically going to be whatever is prioritized first, and whatever is most important. And then whatever I don't get done, it rolls over to the next day, and we keep it moving. So I really just juggle, like you said.
wow, yeah, but
Yeah.
that's those are two good principles that you have, though: time management and prioritizing.
Yes, absolutely.
Both of them. Hold on, we got somebody
Absolutely.
joining us this morning. We're gonna bring her
Nice.
on in. Good morning.
Amen.
Good morning.
Hi.
Coming to the panel this morning, Latasha
Hey, everyone.
to join us. It's two,
Amen.
another one.
That's
She said she's going to be a little late, but she'll be joining us a little later on. But you all, this is Brittany. Brittany, this is our panel. This is Pastor Melissa,
Hello.
Minister
nice.
Elizabeth, Prophetess Latasha, and myself. And Dion will be joining us a little later. So, Brittany, tell us
Yes.
a little bit about yourself.
Yes. And sorry, I'm looking down. I'm actually just telling my to come over to here to watch the interview.
Oh yeah, come on. That's fine. That's fine. And we should just
Yeah.
allow
Yeah.
you to share anyway. While you're doing that, let's do that. Let's share real quick
Yeah.
because
I'm just
we usually
I'm letting
share.
them know where the full interview is, just in case.
Okay, yes, most definitely. Let me do it too because I usually share in the morning, and we do this, and I always, like you
Mhm.
said, that juggling everything. Sometimes I share when I end up coming
Right.
on because I
Oh
do so
yeah.
much before I get on. So let me do the same
Yeah.
this morning. Okay. So you all too. You all share, share, share.
Yes.
Let me do that.
I'm excited about this conversation though. It's
Yes,
yeah, I really
I'm
am. Hmm.
I'm excited about you being here, and
Me
with
too.
Yes.
all the things that you do. You know that you are able to come and join us this morning
Thank
on
you.
Morning
Yeah,
Glory.
absolutely. Like I said
Yeah.
yesterday, the early bird gets the worm, honey.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And you know what? And even the scripture says, "He who seek me early shall find me." Listen, there's a
Amen.
blessing
Mhm.
in getting
Hmm.
up early and doing what you got to do, even seeking the Lord early.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm going to still
Sure.
continue to share.
Yeah. Sure. So obviously, my name is Brittany Miller. I'm gonna go a little bit back. I started my entrepreneur journey back in 2013. I quit my
Mhm.
job, um, and I was working as a meeting coordinator for a chiropractor office. Well, basically, it's not a chiropractor office. He was a chiropractor. My boss and the CEO was a chiropractor. However,
Mhm.
he created a system for doctors, attorneys, financial planners, CPAs to be able to network and cross network,
Mm.
set up referral relationships.
Uh-huh.
And so his whole system was that if two professionals that are in the same industry but not the same exact specialty, that if they meet with each other for coffee, that they can establish a referral relationship that would be fruitful until the end of time. And if they do enough of these meetings, that they would be able to fund the rest of their books. So I was the meeting coordinator that would reach out to these professionals on behalf of another professional, which was our client. And we would set up these meetings, and we would, initiate that initial referral relationship process. However, just like any other typical job, there was bonuses, there was perks, there was, objectives and hit to make more money. And so I was that one that was consistently hitting the mark and beyond, right?
Right.
So it became frustrating, because what started to happen was my boss started changing the reward system and making it harder to reach, right? And just taking away some of the initiatives, because a lot of times when we work for these big companies, the initiatives that they put in place are just like a carrot on a string. They're not really meant for you to actually reach. Yeah. So when I was accomplishing it, it was causing them more stress. So I was like, after they changed it for me, I said, oh no, I'm not doing this, for next to nothing, and for you guys to keep stretching the thing. So I was really stressed out. And it was during a time where I just think I was at my peak. I had worked so many jobs at that point. What was that, 10 years ago? Yeah, I was 23. So I'm 33 now. I was 23 then. And by 23, I think I had worked at least 12 different jobs. Since 16, I was a teenage mom. I became a mom at 16, and then I had twins by 19. So it was a crazy journey. But I stayed working. I always had a hustle and a job. So when I quit, my initial plan was not to be an entrepreneur. It was to just do some hair, because that's what I started out as, a hairstylist. It was to do hair and to do natural hair, because it was something I was good at, until I found something that I was comfortable with and that I felt would be less stressful. So it was basically like my bridge project to find another job. However, as we know with our hairstylists, if you do a good job and your clients really love what you do, then they're going to keep booking you, and they're going to keep your books full every 2 weeks. And that's what started to happen to me. And it was to the point, I was a mobile hairstylist, and one of my marketing strategies was that I was traveling up to an hour away, just to stretch my reach. And if you don't know, I'm from Philadelphia. So living in Philly, an hour reach gives me access to a lot of states. In Philadelphia, you can get to New Jersey, you can get to New York, you can get to Delaware, you can get to Maryland, you can get, so all of these places can be about an hour away, depending where you go. So I kind of put my foot in my mouth by giving me that hour stretch, because I was all over the place. And at that time, I was charging like really dirt cheap to build my clientele. So I was basically charging my gas to get to and from places. And that's how I initially built my clientele. I ended up opening up a hair salon eventually, which, mind you, none of this, I had a license. I opened up a salon and hired a team of about 8 people, including a nail tech and a makeup artist. And so I had this vision of this beauty brand, and it was called Mothers and Daughters Hair, which is because back then, hairstylists frowned upon doing children's hair. It was just not a they're like, don't bring your kids, I was that one who had a lot of kids. So I'm like, bring those babies. They need their hair done,
Exactly.
So that was my thing. And so I opened up the salon, and it was crazy, because during the time of being a hairstylist, that's what really molded this whole foundation for what I do. Because as a hairstylist, multiple women come into your chair. And so as each woman came into my chair, I realized different needs that different women had that the other women had the answers to. So I started to connect people. And I started a nonprofit called Let's Be Women. And I did like an interactive project to push a movement that we were pushing, a mission message. And we did it outside in the public, in the middle of Penn's Landing, which is a big attraction spot for Philadelphia. It's right on the Delaware River. Well, it's across where New Jersey crosses on the bridge. And it was just out in public. We had a bunch of models do duct tape over their mouths with enough said on it. And it was a project that we did that caught the attention to our local radio stations. And they brought me in for an interview. Someone from Atlanta ended up hearing the interview and then offered me a radio show for a network here in Atlanta.
Wow.
So that's really what put Atlanta on my radar. I really had never been to Atlanta. I really had no desire to go to the South. I didn't really, it wasn't on my to-do list.
Yeah.
But I ended up having to go to Atlanta for this training. And so when I went, I saw, and this is no lie, like I'm being fully transparent. I saw a little black boy, probably about 8 years old, on a hoverboard in a driveway. And I just, it blew my mind, because for me, first of all, you ain't getting no driveway in Philly.
Oh, wow. I've never been to Philly.
Yeah, so really, Philadelphia is the hood. Okay, it is the hood.
It's the hood? Really? Okay, come on. Mm-hmm.
And everywhere in Philadelphia pretty much is at this point, especially today, it's really bad. But if you have a Philadelphia address, it's not probably the safest area, period. Wow. So it's not one of those cities that like has a hood and then the rest is the good part. The whole city is the hood for the most part. So with that being said, that was something that, coming from where I'm from, if you have a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 car garage, 5-car driveway with a 2-car garage and a yard and all of this, you're going to be in the suburbs somewhere, and you're going to be paying close to $500,000 for that property, right? So when I came here and I saw Black families that were neighbors to each other with huge single homes, with huge driveways and garages, I was like, oh no, I'm missing out on something. I missed the memo. Yeah. So literally I went back home and I started to talk to my husband, and I told him, we have to relocate, because this isn't it. What we thought is not it. Right. So I did convince him, and he was down for it. He was like, all right, as long as the job market has jobs for me in my industry, then we can go. So we literally packed up the whole family and drove down to Atlanta. We got accepted to this rental property that we moved in initially, and we left everything behind and we started over. And my plan was to come here to do hair, to take over the natural hair market in Atlanta, and just capitalize off of the real estate and just the business. I had no idea how supportive Atlanta was for Black business until I got here. I had no idea. It wasn't something that I came here for intentionally. I came here for the business, but it was for hair. So long story short, when I got here, I realized that in Atlanta, the community was heavier on wigs and weaves and color. And so I was a natural hairstylist. I do press outs and pressing curls and treatments and things like that, which people do get, but it wasn't as prioritized here when I got here. So the amount they were willing to pay for it, it wasn't there. Right. So I was not willing to take a huge pay cut on what I was making consistently for my services. Therefore, I was already here. I had already uprooted my family. And, at that point, I had to just make it work. So I switched over cold turkey. I relied on, once again, what I knew how to do, which was build business. I had built a clientele of over 350 rotating clients. I had opened up a brick and mortar with no license and researched and figured out how to do that. And I had made it to the radio station. I created campaigns that caught the attention of the public. So all of these things I was doing for my own business, I was building the skills and the knowledge to do. And I was helping people that were in my network because they were asking me. I just wasn't charging them because that wasn't my structure of business at the time. I was a hairstylist. Right. So it was kind of a no-brainer once I realized that the hairstylist situation wasn't going to really work the way I wanted it to work, at least quick enough the way I wanted it to be. So I literally I formed Brittany Miller Brand, and I started my branding and PR company. I built my website. I built my packages. I created what I wanted to offer. I did my research with the market, because at that point, I didn't even know what a publicist was. I didn't know what a publicist was. I when I started to read up on it and figure it out, I realized that this is what I've been doing, but I didn't know that the title. I didn't know about the industry. And so I did a lot of research. I set up my company and I started out marketing and putting it out there, just a cold turkey switch. And it was very well received because, like I said, people were already asking me these things. So they were more so happy that I had a way for them to reach out for services now. And so I want to say within about 3 months of setting up my business, I got my first celebrity client, reality TV star, Ashley Akins on Ready to Love, network, Ready to Love. And so that really helped me propel and just get my feet and hands wet in the industry. But just to fully bring it back full circle and answer your question, I am a publicist. I do public relations. I help clients with branding, which is their image, their graphics, their website, their taglines, their campaigns, their copy, the marketing speech, Instagram, social media, all of that is the branding side. And then on the PR side, I help people get exposure. I help build collaborations. I help build ambassadorship programs. We do magazine, radio, podcast, news, all that kind of stuff. And we package it all together, the branding and the PR, because it's best worked together. Without branding, PR is kind of tough. And without PR, success is tough after a certain point. You can only really reach a certain point, and then you need PR to really stretch your reach.
Now, for the people, you said when you came in, you didn't know what a PR was. Right. So as you explained the whole thing, when you said that, I said she was a PR before she knew she was a PR. But you just didn't have the title. So explain to the people what a PR is.
Yeah, so a PR stands for public relations. The word is interchangeable. You can be a PR, a publicist. Public relations is simply that. It's your relationship with the public and anything that intertwines with that. That can look like interviews and exposure to get you more known by the public. It could also mean image repair. If the public has a bad impression of who you are or a bad connotation of who you are, public relations can help reverse that. We put together campaigns, we put together collaborations, we put together projects that will help shift the image that the public has of the person. And so this is why a lot of times you see celebrities or athletes or things like that participate in community service or participate in different projects that will really form the soul, to help people soften the image of who they of what they have as the person in their industry. Sometimes the industry requires you to be different than who you really are. For instance, as a sports professional, you might have to be really like competitive and aggressive and all of that. And it might actually be a more mild-mannered person. And they might want the public to know, hey, I'm not that aggressive or competitive when I'm off the field. So things like that will help, show the public who you are and what kind of personalities you have and what your mindsets are and what you support and don't support and things like that. So all of that is intertwined in public relations. Also how you show up. So the way you look, the way the kind of events you put on, the kind of generosity you show, all kinds of things that just go into, especially nowadays, there's so much because our lives are so exposed. But yeah, that's why I really believe that the public relations industry has jumped to the forefront, because I want to say 10 or more years ago, public relations was something that was not, it was seen but not heard. You know what I mean? We could see the effects of public relations and we could see celebrities doing things, but as consumers or fans, we never really put two and two together that there's a whole team behind this person and there's a publicist that's giving them instructions on what to do next and how to do it, until social media came into play. And then the publicists started sharing their lives and started sharing their projects, and people started connecting the dots and saying, oh, that's how so-and-so was able to go to the hospital and take a picture with these patients and do this and sign autographs. Then, publicists started to become personalities. So That changed the game too, but that's another topic.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so branding, when you say branding and publicists, they go hand in hand.
Yes, they go
Explain
hand in
that.
hand. They go hand in hand. However, you rarely find both of them in the same wheelhouse as far as working with a professional. It's very rare,
Yeah.
which is why I personally believe that my business has been so successful because I do both. I've always been a one-stop shop kind of person. That's just who I am. And I think it's because I'm a natural problem solver. When I used to do hair, I started out only doing press and curls and like natural styles like twist outs and wash and goes and trims and things like that. But my clients love my work so much that they pushed me into doing sew-ins and into doing box braids and things that I wasn't doing. And so it was natural to me to say, okay, let me learn how to do this. Let me provide this because my client wants it and they don't want to go anywhere else. So it was just a natural thing for me to kind of learn a versatile skill base so that I can offer most of what my client needs in one stop. It's just more convenient. So I think that is also why I am that type of person that just offers kind of everything at once. But without branding, you can't really have good PR. And I say that because branding consists of your identity, right? So your headshots, your mission, and what you stand for. If you don't know what you stand for and your mission is not clear, then it's going to be hard to establish a good PR plan because usually we build a PR plan around what your core mission is and we help define that to the public if they don't understand it.
Right.
So the branding has to be intact and your photos have to be high resolution and they have to be, clean and crisp and to the point. And you want good visuals. Right now in this day and age, people are so visual. So you want video clips, you want reels, speaking reels, you want things that showcase the ambiance that you want to present, And so once you have that solid on the branding side, then on the PR side, we can take that and run with it. We can pitch it, we put it out to the major networks, because if you're not packaged well on the branding side, it'll give the wrong impression and it'll create people to reject you and then it'll ruin your image. So it'll backfire if you have bad branding.
Wow. And branding, and now can branding be a product? Because you're the product too, as well. So branding is you. You are the product.
Branding is you. Yeah. And any physical product that you may have. But in today's world, the CEO is the main squeeze. People want to know who owns the product, what they believe in, what they're like as a person before they spend their dollars. Back in the day, it was more about the product. It was like, does this work? If I buy it, is it going to be worth my money? They didn't really care or know who owned it at that point. It was just, does this product work? But nowadays, and we have the celebrities to thank for this, once social media hit the scene and we were able to post in our stories and see 24-hour clips of everybody's days, these celebrities, people we never saw, like Mariah Carey's and the president and all kinds of things like that, we're seeing insight into their everyday day-to-day process. And because of that, it's set an expectation for the consumer. Now we expect that no matter who we shop for. It can be a small business, but we still want to see your day. We want to see what you did yesterday. We want to see what you're doing tomorrow. And a lot of times we get excited about it, and that's why we support their journey. And so that all trickles back down to branding the CEO, because at that point, it's actually an asset. Because once you get people supportive of you as a person, anything you touch at that point is successful, which is how you want it. Because if you ever want to shift your industry or do something different or launch a new product, the people will flow with you if they support you as a person. But if you get them, more so engrossed in the product, and then you drop something else, now you're starting from scratch to get them to support and understand that product as opposed to the CEO.
And we're seeing that, as you were talking about that, I'm seeing that with Black China.
Yeah.
With her shift and everybody's following that,
it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I've always said an athlete that plays football, that throws a good football, can drop a toothbrush. And guess
Right.
what? It's going to make $1 million overnight because they have a fan as a person.
Yes.
People like
Yeah.
them as a person. They like them as an athlete. They like them as an
Yeah.
individual. So they could drop anything with their name on it under their brand, and people are going to support it because they know the source that it's coming from.
Ooh, this
So,
is good
look at
information.
Rihanna.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
that's how Rihanna became a billionaire. She wasn't known for lingerie or makeup. That wasn't
Yeah.
her thing. But people loved her as a person. They got to know her as a person. They liked her style. They liked her swag. They liked how she operated in business. And so at that point, it's over. You just have to keep it up and keep it consistent. But once you continue to drop products or associate with certain things or have an event, everything sells out.
Wow. This is some
Yeah.
good information. Listen, now, how important is it for marketing to market?
Oh, extremely important. You have to market. I think you can't go a day without marketing. If you go a day without marketing, it's fine. Your business is still going to be there the next day, but you definitely are losing out on momentum. You're losing out on sales or possible sales. I can't tell you how, I had to learn that just through experience. I used to never go live, and I still rarely ever go live. But I remember one day I did go live for maybe about 20 minutes, and I talked about something, and somebody bought a consultation session from me while I was on live. And
Wow.
that's just like a hit on the head, like, hello, this is why we market, because every counting minute counts. You never know who sees what you're going to do. I don't know if you guys know Brayley Evans. She's an actress. She's been in a lot of BET movies and other projects.
Yeah, we
She's
get her
one
on
of the
the show.
people. Yeah, she's one of the people. She's one of the people that helped push that message in my head when I initially came here into Atlanta. I interviewed her for my magazine, and she ended up saying, like, when she first was discovered for her very first commercial, which was a Twix commercial that put her on the map, she had started a YouTube channel, and she only had 100 subscribers. And she was explaining how the numbers are not the issue. It's who you may be in front of. And she said, yeah, she had 100 followers. She had 100 subscribers. But within that 100, there was a producer that casted her for that Twix commercial, that saw her video on YouTube and pushed her to the next level. So that's why I always say marketing is very important, even if it's one person, because you never know who that one person is connected to or what their power is. So, it's a thing. Marketing is very important. It has to be very clear, and you want it to do its job for sure.
Yeah. And I believe you can only take yourself so far. You're going to need a team. You can only
for
go
sure.
so far. And
sure.
yeah, because, even with me, I'm limited. But what is the budget that for PR branding? I know since all of yours is incorporated into one, yours have to be a little more expensive because they're getting the one-stop shop. But what is usually the budget?
Well, just to give you an idea about the industry, my services and my fees are, and this is something I'm glad you asked me, because I love to, I don't like to push this out so much because I'm a humble, modest person. But at the same time, my prices are significantly low for the traditional industry and for what the services I provide, considering the industry. And most people don't realize that because PR has come to the forefront so much, there's so many quote unquote publicists that are out here selling services, and some of them are selling services for really cheap, but they're also not giving you legit service, if that makes sense. But if you want to talk about legit service, legit PR service can range you anywhere on average, and this is Googleable, you can Google it. It'll range you anywhere on average from $5,000 to $25,000 monthly. And that's, when you get up into the $25,000 and $30,000 monthly fees, you're talking about A-list celebrities at that point. And people like Cardi B, you know what I mean? They're paying a significant fee for the PR that they're getting. But their PR is a very crucial piece of their success, because they're constantly being stalked down by paparazzi. They're constantly being interviewed. They're constantly being picked apart. they can go get a sandwich at McDonald's, and next thing you know, tomorrow they're a liar, or this or that, from a picture somebody got of them at McDonald's. So this is why also PR gets more expensive. The more exposure you do have, the more it costs, because the more chances and the more resistance there is on what you're building. So but for me personally, my prices range from 1,500 to 5,000 monthly. So I'm in the bottom scale as far as pricing. And I keep it that way because I do have a large scale of clientele. I take clients from brand new startup that have a moderate budget that really are trying to build business and get started, all the way up to celebrities. So I try to keep my price range accessible to the average business owner. Even if that means that they're getting scaled services, that's fine with me. I'd rather them get scaled services than them get no services. So that's my kind of, that's my kind of thing. And I just have a soft spot for the underdog and for the startup, because I was a startup at one point. So, that should kind of give you an idea. But typically, publicists have a service structure too. They charge a retainer just for retaining them for the most part. I don't do that. That's not really my style, just because, I can't wrap my mind around it. Most big agencies, you pay a retainer fee just to retain the publicist as your publicist, and then there's more fees for actual service. So it's almost like how you retain an attorney. Once you retain an attorney, you pay a retainer fee to keep that attorney, and then they charge you based on hours and time on your case and things like that. And so publicists have a similar structure for that. Me personally, I don't charge a retainer. I just charge for my services by the month.
Oh, okay. Now, if someone wanted to go to school for PR, what classes would they take? I know God thrust you into it. You learned.
Yeah. They would go into the journalism or mass communications field. Mass communications is, back in the day, it was more so broadcast. It was news, radio, things like that. Now it kind of encompasses other things like social media management. It encompasses entrepreneurship, encompasses public relations. A lot of that is now intertwined with it. And I have done some public relations courses with universities. So I have taken some classes in it, and I'm also working on my law journey, because I'm eventually going to proceed to business law to add contracting and representing clients to my wheelhouse for longevity. I'm thinking about my senior years. You know what I'm saying? I need a retirement plan.
Yes. So you enjoy what you do, though. You enjoy what you do.
I do. I really do. I definitely enjoy what I do. I think this is something that came around to my life full circle. As a kid, I was the only child for the most part. I had a stepsister for a while, but I am technically an only child on my mom's side. And, I kind of wore this hat without knowing it for a long time as a kid. Anytime I got around other kids, whether it was on my block and we were outside playing, or whether it was my cousins coming over or whatever, I was always the one that was super excited to be around a lot of people, since I was always by myself. So I would always conjure up these crazy ideas. Let's do this. Let's do that. Okay, you be the this, you be the that, you do the this. So I feel myself, even in my adult life and in my professional life, I'm pulling on the same skills that I pulled on when I was 8 years old, So,
yes. It was a gift from God. And you are who you are as a child. A lot of times we just don't identify with it then.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And our gift. Yeah, you had the gift then. So who is the dream person you want to work with, or have you worked with your dream person yet?
Oh, that's hard, because when I first got into this industry, I had certain dream people I wanted to work with, and that kind of changed. Okay. Because once you get on the other side of this thing, you start to see, it starts to make sense. My dream people to work with are people's teams at this point. You know what I mean? Because I realized, as being a part of talent's teams, I realized that a lot of the work that we admire and we love is curated by the people we don't see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it kind of takes sometimes the talent out of the equation for me, depending on what it is and who it is. But I would say definitely a goal is Ava DuVernay. I love Ava DuVernay.
Ava,
I would
yeah.
love to work with her. She's such a queen to me. I love how her mind works, and just I love her persistence and her dedication to her work. If most people didn't know, she didn't pick up a camera till 35. So I love that because like I said, I'm all about the underdog. I'm all about the person that people least expect to do something great. And so anyone who has that kind of story, I'm usually ecstatic to connect with.
Yes, awesome. So since we're talking about stories, now one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is tell the people something you had to overcome, or to get to where you are, some things that you had to overcome, however you.
That one is easy. The struggle, okay? The struggle. No, seriously, I'm glad you asked that, because that's a big one. This comes up so much in my life because I'm constantly being a motivating piece to clients and things like that who are going through that initial struggle or over that hump. Man, when I tell you, I just want to say this whole entrepreneur journey, if you want to do this full time, and when I say full time, I mean no side hustles, no 9 to 5 on the side. No, if you want to just jump out there and do it, you have to be prepared to weather the storm. You have to be prepared to make sacrifices that maybe you never, made or thought you would make. For me, it looked like a big sacrifice because I had a big family. I have 5 children. Total at this point. I have a husband. I've been married for 10 years. The entire time that I've been an entrepreneur, I've been married. So it's been crazy. I just hit my 10-year entrepreneur anniversary this year. So I've officially been a full-time entrepreneur for 10 years.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So I had to be okay with a lot of sacrifices that a lot of people along my journey were definitely not okay with. As I was doing certain things, people around me were like, how did you just quit your job? Like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And this and that. But behind the scenes, I was eating oodles and noodles and dollar menu at McDonald's and skipping some meals and feeding my kids, things like that, not being able to buy the best clothes, or even for my kids, we all got the hit. My whole family took the hit. At one point, my husband and I were sharing a car, and he was working a traditional 9 to 5. And at that point, he was sitting outside of my hair appointments with my kids in the car doing their homework while I was doing an hour-and-a-half hair appointment. And then I would get in the car and we'd drive to my next hair appointment. And then they'd wait again. And then we'd go home and finally get dinner and do it all over again the next day. And these are things that a lot of people are like, nah, I'm not putting my family through that. Nah, I'm not doing that. And so this was a conscious effort that we made, and it wasn't easy. There were a lot of arguments. There were a lot of, disagreements. There was a lot of motivating going on back and forth that had to happen. And just a lot of sacrifice. When I first moved to Atlanta, I remember we moved here with tax money. Okay. We moved here with tax money, and we paid a couple months on our property. And so we had a little bit of cash left, and we started buying groceries and things for the house and stuff for us to live. And we got down to like our last $20, right? And I remember I got a call from Sheen Magazine because I was writing for them. I was just starting writing for them when I got here. And they were like, hey, can you go to this SIB Expo? We want you to cover that. It's in Atlanta and it's happening tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking like, I'm 45 minutes from Atlanta. I got $20. Right? I'm like, is that gonna cover my gas? And my husband is looking at me like, what is wrong with you? Why would you use the last $20 to go do something for free that you're not getting paid for? So there was a lot of that going on that I had to show him, like, listen, you got to see the big picture. You just got to see, you got to trust me. So I ended up doing it. I covered the SIB Expo. And now the SIB Expo is one of my clients, right?
All right, come on.
That's one of my clients now. And it didn't come just from that, but that was the start because I wrote that article Machine magazine, and the founder of Civ Expo was blown away by the article. They were like, we have never been talked about in this manner, the way that you wrote about us. And I was like, oh, thank you, and I'm just out here going hard, you know what I mean? So eventually they asked me to come back and be a moderator. And then I asked me to come back and be, a part of the expo. And then the next call was, hey, we want to hire you to facilitate our media. We want you to be our PR. So, I've been really working with them the entire time I've been in Atlanta. But that's just an example, and that had to come around full circle. A lot of these relationships that I was building for free ended up paying me back in multiple ways, whether it was connections for my network. There's a lot of events I covered for free that I was able to go and seal deals for my clients, things that I wouldn't have access to if I wasn't doing these free things, right? So I want to encourage the business owner or the go-getter to do what you know and you feel has value. It's not always about monetary value. There's a lot of value in things that you can turn into monetary value if you're smart and if you're intentional. So, not to listen to other people who did not get your vision. Because that's crucial. It's a lot of resistance that comes your way when you have these crazy off the wall ideas or off the wall plans. And it can be discouraging, if you don't have that steadfastness about you, that you can just be loyal and dedicated to what you know to be true.
Yes. Well, I hear as you've been talking, what I see is purpose driven.
Yes.
Purpose driven. I equate that. Yeah, and even faith, because it took you to leave your house and to do all the things that you did, even with your children.
Oh, for sure. If it wasn't for faith, faith is extremely huge for me because I do have 5 children. I have faced a lot of adversity in my life. I've been through, like I said, teen pregnancy. One of my children's father, when I was in high school, tried to pretty much get me kicked out of school. He was dropping my daughter off in the office at the school every day and walking out, like literally putting her car seat in the office and walking out every day until it was to the point where I was leaving school every day because he was dropping the baby off and I'm missing school. And then I was going to court because I had domestic violence issues and I was missing days at my school at that time. They don't care if you got a baby. They're like, girl, you're not here. You about to get kicked out. So there was a lot of things and a lot of pushback that I faced, even just from family and people who doubted me and thought I ruined my life and all kinds of things that I had to overcome. So for me, faith is big because I've always believed and been taught that when you show up and you are obedient into what God wants you to do, that he has no choice but to show up for you because he keeps his word. He's a perfect God. So there's no room for error. There's no room for error. As long as you are doing exactly what you know you can do, you're doing your best and you're moving on his order, even when it doesn't feel good, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't really trust yourself, you trust him, he will show up. And I don't care if it's 11:59. Okay. I don't care if it's 11, he will show up. And for me, it's a huge blessing because I don't want my kids in daycare. You know what I mean? I never did. I never wanted my kids in daycare. And so this has allowed a lifestyle for me to have my children home every day. Right now, my kids are homeschooled. That is a blessing for me to be able to be present and to be able to teach them ownership and entrepreneurship and just perseverance. And they've been through the storm. They went through the struggle and seen the difference when money was low to none compared to now where we have things in more of an abundance. So it's definitely something I'm extremely grateful for.
Yes, and I believe that the children should go through the struggle with you too, and it builds character.
It does.
Character.
It does.
The difference between my children that didn't go through the struggle and those that did go through the struggle.
This is true.
The difference between them. I have 5 too as well, so I can relate.
Yeah.
And is a retired hairstylist. I can relate with the children being in the shop.
Oh yeah.
All that, I can relate. Domestic violence. sometimes that's why God connect people. You don't know why you're
Yes.
connected to them, but
Yeah.
it's the familiar spirits and stuff. But this is so awesome. Now, this is the question that I ask people because you're in the public, and I believe ministry comes in different forms.
For sure.
You really explained your ministry, but I want you to say, what would you consider your ministry in the business that you're in?
My ministry it shows its face in so many ways in my industry. Number one, myself. I tell my story to my clients. I share what I've been through because it lets them know that I'm relatable. I get it. I know what it's like to not know how to figure it out. That's how I got here. I didn't go to school for this. I literally learned what I know by going through the struggle and figuring it out myself and tapping into the skills I already had. As a kid, I've always been good at art. I had an art scholarship in 8th grade to Moore Art College from my artist, from my art instructor at my school, at my middle school. So I've always been good at art. I've always been good at music. I have a symmetrical eye, which is just, I guess, what also helped me with hairstyling, knowing how to make things even and make straight parts. That's a big thing. Yeah. And so that same artistic bone helps me with graphic design. It helps me with how to place things on flyers. It helps me with color, and matching patterns and looks and images and things like that. My ministry is also in making sure people know that they can do it, and that if they can't do it and they don't do it, it's because of themselves. And I'm very strict on that. I've heard so many stories of so many people being in this industry. What really built me up, I never had a mentor. So what really built me up was doing interviews, which is another reason why I tend to encourage my clients to get into some form of media, whether it's having a podcast, whether it's having a magazine, whether it's having a blog or a newsletter. Have something where you can consistently have people to share stories with you, because that was my eye opener. Like I said, where I came from in Philly, I couldn't look around and see successful entrepreneurs. I couldn't look around and see too many successful Black people. You know what I mean? Right. So I had to talk to people to find what I needed to fuel me. If I didn't talk to people and hear their stories, I would have never believed it. And so I say that to say, I have never talked to, and this is true, I rarely say never, but I mean it. I have never talked to a 6 or 7 figure earner or millionaire or celebrity that has not had an extremely major hardship, such as homelessness, such as incarceration, such as starting brand new fresh, or abuse, or anything that's traumatic and crazy and shakes your world. I haven't talked to one who hasn't had that. So that really opened my eyes and let me know that when you are someone who's constantly targeted with turmoil and problems and things like that, you're chosen. It's a chosen, because the people who God feels as though can handle it, He's going to give that to you. And when you overcome it, because you will, He's going to reward you for it. But it's all about the mindset. You have to know it. If you don't know it, then it's all a waste. If you think that you got yourself out of the situation, then it's a waste. You have to know that it's a bigger power behind your journey and behind everything that you go through. And you have to really be smart and look past the surface and figure out how you're supposed to use this thing for your good. Because so many people are so used to seeing the surface, and they're so used to getting upset and getting angry and defensive and not wanting to deal with it, right? Than they are to say, why is this happening to me? What from this can I take and do something with? Because there's a lot of people we know that are influencers and that have amazing stories that we admire them for, but if they never would have taken that story and ran with it, we wouldn't even know about it.
That's true. That's
true. That's my thing. And ministry, like you said, it has so many different faces. And God, I believe, did that on purpose, because there's people who will legitimately run from Him if they know it's Him.
Exactly.
So a lot of times we're not set up as pastors or churches all the time. We're set up as publicists or ticket masters or whatever position you hold. You have a job of ministry, and it is your job to spread the word and to teach people about what God has done for you. And if you can't list anything, then you need to go and reflect.
Come on. is so
Yes.
true. And as the scripture says, too much is given, much is required.
For sure.
Much
For
is
sure.
required,
Oh, and I'm learning that part.
yeah,
The more he gives you, the more work you have to do, the more
yes,
responsible you are when you mess up. And
the
that's a big thing.
sacrifices.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a big thing. Like
exactly.
when you mess up and you don't really know who God is, the punishment is light.
Woo.
But when you know who God is and you know what he's done for you and you're out here cutting up, that punishment ain't light. It's going to come back around and it's going to come hard, you know? So for me, that is why I operate in integrity and always will. That is why I pay it forward and always will. That's why I teach everything I know. We can't take it with us. There's no reason for me to withhold any information, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, I'm all about it. We'll be here for days, child.
That's awesome because the young people need to hear that. You know,
Yeah.
we got 2 more minutes. Is there anything you all want to ask her before we get ready to close out?
The ages
Well,
of your kids. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
First.
Go ahead, Pastor.
The ages of your kids. What are the ages?
Oh, it's a good question. So I have the full spectrum, honey. Okay, I've been having kids for 17 years, honey. Yeah, my oldest is 17, and then I have 14-year-old twins. I have a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old. So yeah, I have the full spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. They're all girls. So
Really?
yeah. That's another reason why
daughters.
another reason why I believe that I really am designed to be in the field of women's empowerment, because I'm literally building 5 little women on my regular day-to-day without working. So, you know, and I'm proud of it. I'm happy about it because I want them to understand and appreciate ownership. I want them to understand and appreciate hard work. And they got it. I talk to them every day and they're like, oh yeah, mom, I'm going to work for myself because they got 25,000 reasons why they're going to work for themselves.
Oh yeah.
That's
You're
good.
raising up the future entrepreneurs. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay,
I just want to say just thank you because you're just so amazing. The journey of how God has used your gifts to make room, and your knowledge, and you're giving yourself to help and building others. So may God just continue to bless you. And I'm just being empowered myself on this interview. So I just thank you. Oh, it's such a blessing. Oh, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's been, you know, and I really credit my diverse background, my diversity that I've experienced in my life. I credit that to my overall mindset. And I'm writing my book. I'm almost done. So if y'all watching this on my live, don't get me because I promise it's coming. I've been working on this book for like 4 years. Okay, it's been a long time. And it's legitimately almost done. It's just a matter of obviously my projects come last to my clients. So, but I'm writing my story because I have such a non-common or non-traditional setup that I really want people to take from my story, and I want people who are like me to know that there's someone else like them. I'm multicultural. My mom's side of my family, my grandma is from Canovanas, Puerto Rico, and my grandfather is half Irish and half Indian, American Indian. So my mom's side is not Black. They don't identify as Black. My grandfather is a retired police captain in Philadelphia. He was a police officer for 25 years. And my dad's side is a little bit different. My dad was Black. He died when I was 4 years old, and he was killed by a police officer. And so, you know, I had 2 different sides of influence and upbringing, and both are equally as important and equally as significant to my life. A lot of my street smarts and my hustle culture and my confidence and my whatever came from my dad's side, and a lot of my academics and my traditional structure and all that came from my mom's side. But then me having a baby at a young age put me in a whole separate spectrum. And so all of that put together and everything I've gone through and everything I've learned, it's for sure I have a story to tell. And so I appreciate, you guys seeing the value in who I am and what I do and everything that makes me up.
Oh yeah.
And wait, you said that you have a daughter that's 17. You don't look a day older than 17.
Right? Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I've always been told that I look like a baby. So
you do. Good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It is.
What you got coming up? Let the people know what you got coming up. I did found one flyer. Is this what you got coming up here?
Yep, that's one of my things. And as we were just speaking about that's the Civ Expo. It's powered by the Civ Expo, but that is their Mamapreneur Brunch, which is happening on April 29th. It's going to be amazing. It's an entrepreneur-centered event for mothers in business. And so I'm moderating that fireside chat. I'm also working behind the scenes to facilitate media and everything else. So I'm doing a double hat job there for that. But there's a lot of things coming up. We're dropping a new cover for Woman and Woman Talk magazine on Friday. We have the Speakeasy coming to Atlanta and the Hands Behind the Brands event. This is by the fashion strategist Ayana Blount. She's from Philly. She's one of my Philly girls. And so I have a lot of clients that have things happening right now. And so definitely just stay tuned on my Instagram and you'll be able to catch everything. We just wrapped up the Put a Ring on It watch party and, you were there. So, so we're constantly curating experiences and events for clients, and we're constantly creating opportunities for people to get together and network and fellowship. So definitely stay locked in. And if you go to my website, you can also subscribe and you'll get all of our exclusive invites and updates and things like that as well.
Okay, give them your website and your social media outlet real quick so we can go there.
Sure, BrittanyMillerBrand.com, spell BrittanyMillerBrand.com, or you can go to my Instagram and all of my handles and links are there, and it's at Mrs. Britt Miller. It's MRS BRITT Miller MILLER. And everything is pretty much in one place. You can find links to everything else.
Awesome. We thank you so much, Brittany. Just pray that you continue to be that light, that God continue to use you, to uplift, and that God just open up many doors for you. We just
absolutely
with your children and your husband and your family. Well, once you came on this live, we're continuously going to pray for you and your success in the business.
I appreciate that. Thank you so
and
much.
Whatever you put your hands to, we declare that it shall prosper. Wherever you put your feet on, you shall possess it in the name of Jesus. So we declare that, and we're sitting back and we're going to just watch. We're going to watch you. We're going to watch what God does in your life. Amen. Well, we just
I appreciate that.
We just give God the glory. Congratulations on the 10-year anniversary.
Thank you.
Listen, we're going to be watching out. I just want you putting me on your roster.
Yeah.
That I'm on there.
Amen to that. I appreciate you guys, and I encourage you all the same to keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for showing up for this show. It's an amazing platform. And then it's my pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, thank you for joining. We'll see you, everyone.
Bye.
Remember, Brittany Miller. Brittany Miller.
Yes, you heard it here first now.
Yes. Have a blessed and wonderful day.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Bye-bye.